drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a massive welcome to the Boster's Inquiry Sunday Sermon. Yes, the flagship show that's not totally shit. And we've proved that this week. Our Jack in tremendous form on the tipping show this week, tipping the Dante winner, and he also advised it for the Derby at big odds. John, our Jack is becoming a bit of a group race legend, isn't he?
I think he's a cult.
He's a what?
A colt or a cunt? Wait.
He's a cult, obviously, isn't he?
Yeah.
A cult. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Oh, we got that wrong. We thought it was cult or cunt.
Only a matter of time before we start getting some merch on the go here. I think we should be getting Jack Veach beards and T-shirts.
Yeah, the Veach beard.
Key rings, a lot. Yeah.
We'll come on to the Dante in a short while in our review and what me and John think of that, and as well as its Derby chances going forward. And of course, all the roundup on the trials, etc., etc. But I'd like to start this show off, gentlemen. This week's been Mental Health Week. And of course, us as a podcast, myself, John, Catherine Fry, who, by the way, is on the show next week, we're doing a 4-ball. So don't forget to tune in for the sermon 4-ball next week.
Is that with visuals?
Yeah. Audio only, sadly. That's the way it is. Anyway, we started this off primarily to keep in touch with each other during lockdowns. Here we are. Oh dear. To this day. But nevertheless, this is why we did it. We did it for mental health, to make sure we were in touch with each other, talking racing, and at least once a week we'd gather away, or twice a week, and get to chat and talk. And I urge and besiege any of you out there, jockeys, trainers, bloodstock, whatever part of racing you're in, you need to reach out there and talk through your problems or issues or anything that's weighing you down. Do not let it fester. It is so vital that you do this, because the longer you leave it, the worse it builds up, and it builds up. It builds up into something worse. In my own case, I have a social anxiety disorder where I can just balloon like a pufferfish, because obviously gastric is related to the brain. So, of course, it affects my internal sort of stomach workings when I'm feeling like a pressure situation. And that's because over time, I don't release my problems. I keep them in. I manage them on a day-to-day basis. And that's what's developed for me over time. And I know there's other people out there that suffer and stuff. And this is why I urge you to speak to friends or family or trusted people when you are feeling really, really low. This is important. What I'd also like to add to this, to sort of the mental health debate, is try and think 24 hours ahead. I've said it before on podcasts. When you try and plan weeks in advance, or you're worried about paying a bill in 3 weeks, or you're worried about this in 2 weeks, or this is coming up, just try and focus on the day ahead and what that entails and what you need to do to get through it, because that helps your head. And then once your head starts feeling positive about a day, and this is what we think about positivity. Rory McIlroy's been on and he said, discuss positivity. And it's so true. I had a bit of criticism from somebody the other night regarding some tipping performance recently. And lo and behold, I finished it off by saying, look, let's be positive. We can turn this around. We can do it. Lo and behold, we landed a double the other day on Patreon at nice prices. I think that's it. You have to really be strong, be as strong as you can be. Keep positive vibes. Scared money never wins, doesn't it, John?
Absolutely not. If you got one eye looking over your shoulder at what might happen if something gets paid, it affects your whole mindset. The safest is to always bet like it means absolutely nothing. And it's easier said than done.
It is. It's a skill you can master, though, over time. And in tough times, it can be hard, but it's a skill you can master. Any jockeys, traders out there feeling a bit low right now, positive vibes, everything positive. Chris, what do you think to those sentiments?
Well, I do. I absolutely agree. And any jockeys or trainers that are feeling down, feel free to message me with some information and I'll cheer you up in return. So But only fucking buzzers though, no load of old shit. Tell us a few
Yeah.
winners, and I'll give you some.
Send winners. Yeah.
Yeah, some fridge magnet philosophy to cheer you up. You know, live,
Yeah.
laugh, lie. That's what I'm going to say. That's about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, listen. You're right. It is easier said than done. However, it's like anything. If you get into good mental habits, they're much easier to replicate. And I think what I would say is beware of that internal commentary that we all have all the time. You know, make sure it isn't too negative, because that can become quite difficult to break if you're constantly berating yourself internally. You know, you've got to try and break that cycle.
Yeah, for sure. Positive vibes for the week going forwards, then, folks, as we're going to provide on this show. Just to add to mental health, Charlotte Russell.
Oh, lovely.
As-
That's cheered me right up. See, the power of words. No, this is good.
Some initiatives that Yorkshire racetracks have done on Mental Health Awareness Week. Catterick had a reminiscence day this week, inviting folks to come along and chat and talk racing memories, things like that, along with a charity walk that's taking place on the 6th of July. I believe Andrew Balding is doing that one as well, from Scarborough Castle to Whitby Abbey. 22 miles, Chris. Charlotte's on that walk. Are you coming up?
I'll be driving, I think. I could walk the end of the street. Fucking 22 miles. That's a fair old hike, isn't it? How long would that take? I mean, what's that, all day? Is it 8-9 hours? I don't know.
It's coastal, isn't it, as well? So it's like rocky little paths and things.
Ooh, high winds. There'll be a few being fucking left off. Yeah, blown off.
If I ask listeners now, the producer, he's thinking about doing this. I get a nod of the head there.
Yeah.
Now, if she got sponsorship, then I think register your interest that you'd sponsor her to do this. And obviously, it's racing welfare charity, so it's for a good cause. So the producer there might be doing the old 22 miles walk. I know she can do about 7 or 8 miles, because I've seen her when she's gone out for a day and looked at her pace.
You're going to shove her off the cliff after you'll be hiding behind in the bushes, just like an insurance scam. You know,
I'm in Boozer in Whitby, eating fish and chips, massive fish and chips.
Yeah, massive.
There's a Boozer here that does, honestly, it's about a foot long.
Wow, fantastic.
I'll be there with that, with a good old pint while she's doing that, and then she can come and join me, and I'll say, was it good?
You did, yeah, it's fucking, yeah, it's good that, yeah. 10 pints in,
Anyway, racing review time. This is where we get on chewing the fat this week at the York Dante meeting, and we'll cover the Lockinge that took place yesterday at Newbury. But first of all, John, on to Wednesday, and it was all about the fillies, the Musidora.
Yeah.
I'd like to get your take on this, because Whirl was extremely impressive in quite a good time figure as well. So I'd like to know what you think about Whirl.
I think she's a horrible looking little twat. Actually.
Really? Well, as in just not physically there, or?
I don't like the look of her at all. I think she's all bones and angles and not very nicely put together, and she almost offends my eye, shall we say.
Interesting. Right.
Now, that's not to say she can't run, because obviously she can, but my God, I don't like her as a type.
Now, that's
Definitely
interesting,
not.
because Coolmore breed, don't they, that basically with their mares. If you were in charge of their bloodstock and breeding, I'm being serious. If she won an Oaks, then, let's say she turns out and wins the Oaks, would you breed with the top sires with her?
I'd shoot the dam and then shoot myself, I think. Honestly, I wouldn't know how to start, straighten things out to my liking. I think I'd just have to tender my resignation and walk away. That she just doesn't float me boat as a type. I don't like the look of her for going round there. But honestly, I really struggle to be positive about her. And I know she won the Musidora nicely. You don't get this on other podcasts after time in a house and saying it's shit when it's won.
Well, no, this is why this is cracking content, because obviously Time Lords will be bouncing a little bit. She's not a short price for the Oaks, but she's obviously not a big price.
I just can't square it in my head that she's an Oaks winner.
Wow.
And every time I look at her, I just feel nauseous.
Obviously, you made a great case for Smoking.
Yeah, and just went up in Smoking as well, didn't it?
Do you reckon she's done short term for you now?
I don't think there's a hope in hell of getting her back for the Oaks. I mean, they said she scoped dirty. And for people that aren't familiar with that usually means they've had a bug on them and have completed the course full of snot. Basically, it's like you trying to run a mile when you've got pneumonia. It sets you back a bit. It'd be a miracle, really, to get it to the Oaks. don't think we'll say it till the autumn. If indeed we say it, sometimes this can just completely fuck asses.
So there we are, folks. You have it here firsthand from our bar stewards, paddock guru, and before anyone slags him off, how many Oaks have you watched? This fella knows his stuff.
The thing that's throwing me off the one, I don't fucking care.
Well, there is that, yeah, they're not giving a fuck angle, which is, of course, helpful. So John is vehemently against Will as an Oaks type. He doesn't like her as a filly going forwards. So maybe cross off your list if you're a John disciple and follower. And I certainly am. I do listen to when he's strong on something like that. It's quite good. Thursday, it was Dante Day. And of course, we attended as bar stewards, and what a fun day that was. We had one of the Highclere owners fall over the tables and smash wine
Let's
everywhere.
be fair, it was all over the table. He took a header into the two tables and took them out completely. And then arose from the ashes looking like he pissed himself because the champagne had all gone on the loin region.
Was the champagne all right, though?
No, the champagne was all on the grass.
Oh,
yeah, honestly,
terrible.
the wastage.
It was 160 quid on the grass.
So, Mr. Tony, we require a bottle of champagne back at the Ebo. Thanks for coming.
He said the first bottle was on him at the Ebo.
Yeah, there you go.
Never going racing again. You do realise that, don't you? Ever.
I would have backed him never to get home again, actually. And he actually got himself to the station and got back to London that night.
Me and John said we made him evens to get to the station because I've never seen anyone as drunk as that.
I'm saying that was as fast as I've seen anybody at the races.
And I'm a walking distillery as well, and no, I've never got like that.
The race horses don't carry enough stock to get you like that, like.
No,
well, yes, that's true. Yeah, you hold your drink well.
So it was Dante Day. I tell you what we'll do, because we like to keep things a bit of fun. In your questions, York are doing quite well. They're trying new things. They've moved the pizza into the champagne lawn, because obviously in the champagne lawn you might not fancy burgers and chips. And they're doing different things. But John decided to try the Philly cheesesteak, John. What was the review like on the Philly cheesesteak?
The York Philly cheesesteak. I can heartily recommend that you buy one of these and give it to somebody you don't like.
Really? Is it that bad?
It was absolutely horrendous. The only thing I would say that was good was that the bread bun maintained its shape and was nice and squishy. Everything else was absolutely disastrous. The mushrooms were burnt. The steak was rump and was just scorched until it had firmed up, shall we say.
Bath in August.
That
from the sounds of it.
It was absolutely terrible. And then there was this nondescript cheese sauce that was supposed to be pepper jack cheese sauce.
Yes.
There were some black bits in it that were meant to look like bits of black pepper. They were not black pepper. That's all I can say about that. They were not black pepper.
And how much did this cost you, John? How much would they take you for?
How much? 14 quid?
14 quid?
Yeah, absolutely disgusting.
And I felt sorry for John. Did you polish it off, though?
I had to force it down. I had no breakfast.
We have to, yeah. 14 fucking quid. I'll be taking out my pockets.
We gave John seconds because then me and the producer thought, well, he's not enjoyed that.
Gave him my fucking sweets that you took off me. I bet you still got them. I bet you still got them. Yeah, you bastard.
I bet them. Yeah.
I hope I choked you.
Yuzu Street Food. It's a place in York. And this is what I like what York are doing. This is what I want to see more racetracks do. It's local restaurants. Get them in that are good.
Yeah, that's
and then get them on course. And Yuzu Street Food, I've ordered them before. It's good comfort food, an ideal sort of takeaway. So, John, what did we get you from Yuzu?
There was salt and pepper, chicken fillets, plus and this strange gravy.
Okay.
Right, so review, please.
It was fortunate that it came after possibly the worst rail in the history of racing, but it was actually rather nice. The chicken was delicious, the chips were good, and just the right amount of salt and pepper seasoning and peppers and onions, and so I really enjoyed that. That was a solid 7.5 out of 10.
And that's what you need in it. When you go racing, you're not going to get your 9s and your 10s, but You need that 7.5. You don't want to pay 7 or 8 quid out for a burger and it's just shit. You need something not totally shit.
Yeah, I mean, that silly cheesesteak, you see, the fucking idiot that put it together obviously never compiled a sandwich in his life or had to eat a sandwich in his life because he put it together in such a way that every bite meant bits of sandwich were flying all over the place. Basics.
Basics indeed. On to the racing then.
Yeah.
We'll do a couple of races, but nice to see. And everyone loves an old cock, don't they? Everyone loved old cock winning.
All right,
Yeah.
The day his old cock came out, it was nervous.
The screams you could hear across the naves, Maya. Yeah.
But we go on to the Albasti Dubai Middleton Stakes for fillies and see the fire, John. Now, I'm going to say this now. I know it's fillies. They might not have run the races. You never know with fillies. But winning by 12 wickets, this surely now is a genuine Group 1 contender mare for this summer over 10 furlongs.
Well, I would suggest if you can get a price for her for the Nassau, you take it, really. I really fancied her for this race at Chris Pogmore's day. But I did actually say on the pod, because ridiculous thing of Baldwin's was in the race, wasn't she? Calpana. And,
ridiculous thing.
She was about 7-4, and this was actually trading at 6-1 when our pod went out, and I said it must be the H-way bet of the decade. I mean, she's gone off odds on and won like a 1-5 shot, to be fair. I would say that I think it's hugely significant when a horse like this shows a real preference for York. She's shown twice now that she absolutely loves this place. I think they might even just stretch her out and sneak a Yorkshire Oaks with her.
If she were mine, I'd do Nassau and International. She'd be entering International and the Yorkshire Oaks, and then I'd look at International, and if I thought the International was a bit weaker than what it can be,
and lettuce ones with 3 in, and
then I'd go International, because getting obviously the fillies allowance as well on top, that'd interest me a lot. But she looks in prime order for this season. As Andrew Baldwin this year, what a start he's made to this season. Some of his horses are just absolutely pinging. Whether that continues, it remains to be seen. The big news, the Dante, and of course, our very own Jack Veach, landing the odds again. He's so good at this. I think he's group race analysis, and that's what we do. That's how we employ him on Bar Stewart's Patreon. If you fancy joining, he does a French previews, all the big French races when they run.
He actually wears a stripy jumper and a beret to do those, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
String of onions around his neck.
I could see Jack actually in a berry and onions around his neck. Yeah. He would look like a proper district Frenchman, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Sort of smoking a gauloise and then running away from German tanks. That's
him.
Proper French behaviour.
He'd definitely get a part in LOLO, wouldn't he?
We'd all like a part in a LOLO, wouldn't we, really?
Yeah, you'd be into barmaid, you would.
Not off, yeah.
Elga for me in that, anyway. Elga.
Yeah, I like Elga as well. When she took that old trench coat off, remember that scene where she got stripped for hair flick?
Yeah, I quite like the resistance bird.
She was good.
I think once you broke her resistance down, she'd let you put it anywhere.
Oh yeah, fucking got right up to the cannon wheels, honestly.
Producer's shaking her head right now, shaking her head in disdain. That's why, of course, according to Apple, 97% of our listeners are male and 45. There you go.
Lonely, sad, and desperate. Yeah.
The grey pound.
Grey pound, we're living embodiment of it. Quite right.
Pride of Arras. Jack tipped up, of course, for the Dante, and this was, for me, a very, very impressive winner. Why, you may say? Because I'll give you several reasons. The splits and the metrics were very similar to Desert Crown's win in the race. Secondly, it was only its second start. Thirdly, it had to go through a gap. So when you're dealing with horses that don't have that amount of experience, to basically, do I go through this gap? Do I not? Well, that horse was making full weight sure it was going to go through that gap. And it looked professional. Head was down. I've asked John since. John, you're confident that this horse will go around Epsom?
I don't think there's any issue with the track whatsoever. He impressed me enormously in the Dante. I didn't think the race was run to Silk, but he travelled impeccably and never pulled race, anything like that. Quickened when Rosser asked him to, and basically did everything he was asked to do, including going through that gap, which he went through when they were quickening. He'd be more suited to a stiffer test than he got here. His temperament looks bomb-proof. I'll be honest, if I wasn't already on, I'd back him at 6s now.
It's a huge Rick. You know for a fact, Ralph and Rafe Beckett brothers, right? They're still underrated, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Pound for pound, him and Haggis are streets ahead of everyone else, I think, for now.
Mm.
To me, if this was Ballydoyle, this would be 5-4 Fav.
Well, I'll put it another way. If Michael Stout had carried on another season, despite being finished and everything that's come out of his yard improving for getting out of his yard, this would have been 5-2.
Yeah.
From a yard that was finished.
I think this should be favourite for the Derby.
Right,
And
without a shadow of doubt, right?
the fact is that we're all unanimous, me, yourself, Jack, completely unanimous in like all lights are on. If you haven't got involved yet on Pride of Arras for the Derby, now is the time you do it, because this horse is an absolute weapon. Do you know why I think, John? Because of the massive SP. It went off 18-1.
Yeah.
It drifted. It was like 30 on the machine for a bit.
What do you make of that, though? What do you make of that? Wouldn't that trouble you? That it's obviously
No.
shown them nothing.
No,
They're
no.
not a gambling yard, and there was a welter of money for the line in winter.
Well, you said they're not a gambling yard. I mean, Valmont are in there, and we know Valmont's connection.
Yeah,
Some of them are very, very serious punters. But you're talking about a Dante here as well. Some of them might have thought, well, you're coming out of a Sandown Maiden. We don't actually know what we've actually got. We don't know yet. He's worked well before. Jack even had the temerity to email the Beckett yard who said, well, we'll see. If he works well, he'll run. And so, of course, he runs, so he must have worked well. And, of course, then he comes out and does that. And I know what you mean, Chris. If that goes off 5-4 Favid, Dante, right?
Yes.
It's probably 4-5 now, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
But because it went off 18, people are thinking, well, would it just a shit Dante? Is it a fluke? There's no fluke about this. Not on metrics, not on performance. Seriously, this is a serious bet. I would say to anyone, if you want to be careful, Claude's backing each way.
I'll have the full tenor on then in that case.
Absolutely.
I was just interested, because normally they know what they've got, don't they? And the market tends to reflect the relative ability. So I was just surprised. So maybe you're right, as you say, it's shown them not a lot at home. They haven't done much with it.
Chris, there's not three turning up at Epsom that's beating this.
No chance.
Fair play.
We don't have to time here on bar stewards. There's no this fence sitting, as John stated in the Musidora. Yeah. We've got a firm opinion here about the Derby winner.
Yeah.
And this is why you listen to our pods. So Pride of Arras is one to be on for the Derby, even at this price now. At current stage, I rate Pride of Arras about an 11-4 chance. On the day, if it makes the race with a decent draw, everything happy with it, and stable vibes are good, I'd probably make it around a 2-1, 15-8 chance.
Okay.
As to
fair enough. Can't say fairer than that.
All necks are on
the Derby. Couple of weeks, 3 weeks is it the Derby? When is
6th, 7th?
Oh, could be dead by then. Right.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah.
We're living hope.
Well, we do. We do a death sweep. I think John's edging Fav at the minute, and then it's Nick second in, me just slightly third in. I think any price the rest at the moment.
No, I've got a doctor's appointment about a growth on my lip, so I don't know. There could be a bit of early money coming soon. I'll have to see.
Right. Nah, take it just to kill you.
No, we'll see. There's some smart money, but there's a few inquiries. What price being put in? Yeah.
Racing questions time, because a lot of you love your racing. And of course, Davis, you shouldn't be asking questions. Just ask us in fucking chat. What an idiot. It appears we might have an interesting Derby after all. What's all your favourite ones? Derby of the past, John. What is your favourite ever Derby?
Golden Fleece, 1982.
I knew you were going to say that. Tell me why.
Just incredible performance, really. Pat Edry sat way out of his ground, much further back than you'd ever recommend round there. Pat was probably the only one on the race car, so he didn't seem to give a flying shit where he was sat. He was under instructions not to ask the horse for anything until inside the last quarter mile, to which he thought to himself, the only thing I've ever asked this fucker to do is slow down. Illustrates the kind of confidence he rode the horse with. The explosive brilliance at the end of the race was just something to say. The way he swept past the subsequent Leger winner. Right good horse, actually, touching wood. After giving him thick end of 20 lengths into the straight was unbelievable. Best Derby winner I've seen by a very good chunk.
I suppose for me, it isn't necessarily the best Derby or the best horse. It was just because I was emotionally involved in the horse. And I think once you become like that, and it was obviously Nashwan Derby, because I backed it in the Guineas, anti-post. Obviously, I didn't get Whizlon prices. Nevertheless, as a youngster, it meant so much to me following the sport. And then every time he ran, I made sure I watched him whenever he ran. For him to win that Derby, when I didn't think he'd stay properly, really, he did it because of probably his class alone. And it was probably a shit Derby as well. Just for that reason. So it's just memories. It's not really like class and quality, but even though he was class, but there has been better, is what I'm trying to say. That's the reason for me. Chris, any favourite derbies that stick in your mind, punting-wise?
Yeah, much the same reason as you, really. I mean, I think I like Chris Kin. I think that's the only Derby winner I think I've backed in the last 2 decades, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I like Slip Anchor. Do you remember that? That was a crack. Yeah, Steve Corson. Yeah, I thought
fantastic
that was impressive. Yeah, precisely that. So yeah, those are the two that sort of stand out for me. But I think for me, it's been spoiled a little bit in recent years by the Ballydoyle dominance, because those kind of horses sort of blur into one, don't they? Really? Then I couldn't name one of the last sort of 4 or 5 winners they've had. So yeah, I think probably Chris Kin and Slip Anchor.
A couple of questions on James Owen, and he's been on regarding Godolphin's new Magic Carrots. Carrot seems to be the topics of racing this week on our questions. And obviously, James Owen, best trainer or best carrots. Stuart's been on and said, is it time to lump on any stable debutant for James Owen when the horses move from another trainer? Outrageous results with new horses. The BHA should be permanently stationed at his yard with a lab. Can't really go there at the moment, but
no,
but
certainly not.
Yeah, I do know a little bit on this, but it is what it is. You're probably not far from the beaten path, but the wife, of course, of James Owen is a vet. I've been told that she's quite good with horses that have bled in the past. So maybe that's an angle for the James Owen team there in terms of getting horses to improve, maybe. But carrots-wise, John, Godolphin, are we saying carrots with theirs at the moment? I don't really see that, to be fair.
It's either carrots or they're playing Enigma Return to Innocence on loop in the stables.
Yeah. Look, it's one of them things. Sometimes as punters, we think, wow, there's some performances that shine. But you've got to remember, Godolphin and Appleby, they had a lot of runners at the Craven meeting that ran shit as well. I don't know. I usually think if you're deploying carrots, usually they all run eye-poppingly well. Maybe it's me being naive, I don't know. Katie and Dub's been on. Ted Walsh fined 3,000 Irish punts or euros by Irish stewards, taking his clean record into account. Wasn't he spotted bringing his horse to an unlicensed vet a few years ago that nothing's been said about? Also, not forgetting the Foxrock horseshoe fiasco. This in particular is on about a horse that ran at Wexford, John, on Saturday. The horse in question was called Tar Nar La in the 4:45 race, the novice chase. I have to say, I watched the race. I had a good old chuckle. Did you see the race?
I made it my business to have a little glance at it when the story broke.
Yeah.
I thought I'd better say how vigorous the kid was in riding it.
I'm afraid to say I completely concur with the stewards and the purse from Katie. Absolutely.
It was another one of them back spasm rides, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I think the jockey just had a bad back for most of the race and couldn't get it back into place. When you're cricking your back into place, it was one of them, I thought, as he sort of struggled away. But Chris, you might have a different opinion on this. You might tell us why that horse didn't win.
Oh, well, I couldn't possibly comment. Ted Walsh is a map.
No. You missed.
What?
I've led you in. I want your Irish
Go on.
impression.
No, I'm not going to do that. No, I can't do it to order. I'm not a performing monkey, you know. I have artistic integrity. I don't just perform. I have to get into character. I have to drink heavily. I'll give you a dose at the end of the session. But really, this is why this program's going downhill now. You see, you're asking too much talent, John. That's what we were moaning about before. We're being stretched to breaking point now, and
underpaid.
Yeah, undervalued. So I don't know, you know, in terms of that ride, I mean, listen, I don't know what to think of it. Do you know, I find Irish racing even more confusing than British racing. I just think that the whole thing is just so institutionally bent. You just shake your head, don't you? Some of the explanations, some of the rides, etc. And you know, and it fundamentally makes it just such an unattractive product for people to bet on at the minute. I just, you know, maybe it's recency bias, but I think it's much iffier than I think it has been for several seasons, certainly in the UK and in Ireland, I think.
So your man wasn't on.
Your man didn't have a car on there, the fucking bastard cunt. I said to him when you went to the car park, I said, get the fucking handbrake on, your man's missed. There you are, and that's an extra £50 that costs you.
He's going to trademark this.
Donovan D, TM.
New contract written. So every time I have to say this, it's £50.
50 by night. Listen, Des Donovan, I've got to split 25 with him as well. He'll be on there asking for money. He'll be ringing me up. Hey, that fucking money.
I'm looking forward to your man getting his own show, actually.
Your man, the Des Donovan show. I guarantee you, if you had Des Donovan on a podcast with Brian Ellison, that would be the best, because you'd struggle to understand anything. 100%.
Mick Winters,
Oh, Mick Winters. Yes, of course. Yeah, even better. Yeah, even better. Have them three on. That'd be good.
Smiler 57's been on. By the way, Smiler 57 is. Do you remember the old Betfair forum?
Yes.
John Joe was John Joe, of course. Smiler 57 is Aceful.
Oh my goodness!
Your horse is stuck on a fence.
Yes, of course. A famous character. Well, in fact, a legendary character.
He's back. He loves the bastards, and he said regarding Kia,
the car or the owner.
About as good as each other, are they?
Kia's all right, actually.
He says he's $1 million to win a classic, in his opinion, with his current strategies. John, would you agree with that?
Well, he's been second in two out the last three derbies.
That's true.
I don't know if he's $1 million. I think the buying policy leaves something to be desired. I did think the Marcus Townsend article in the Post was one of the biggest hatchet jobs you'd ever see. And I don't think I could think of anyone else in racing who he might have wrote that about over any period of time. Anybody that's been and gone in racing or whatever. I think he purely got away with that because Kia's face doesn't fit. I don't think you would see anything resembling that article about anybody else in racing. It was an absolute one-off, I thought. Basically, I mean, he sort of contained himself from having a good old chuckle about the breeze up at us, 1.7 million getting beaten on debut. You know, it was as though he could hardly contain himself.
What I will say is, and look, I'm not in your league, John, in terms of paddock-wise, but the breeze up horse that cost 1.7 million, if the likes of, say, me and Matt Chapman can spot that physically it looked a pony, it was the most physically unappealing thing I've seen in the entire field.
Who bought it for him? Has he got an agent, or did he pick it himself?
Alex Elliott, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if you pay £1.7 million on a 2 furlong breeze for a horse of that physical nature, I'd have to question that bit. I'll be honest.
I mean, the one thing I do like about Kia is he doesn't mess about, and I think if they grab blank this year, I think we'll see this particular bloodstock agent kick to the curb quicker than an England fullback will kick onto the curb for a...
Yeah. Even if it were being a pocket rocket or a lyric fantasy type, that were never going to make a 3-year-old. It were never going to be.
You're not going to breed from each either.
No, that's the one thing. It sounds like after timing because it's got beat, but it's one of them that if you looked at it physically before the race, and even Chapman picked up on it in the paddock, he's saying, I can't see anything about this. He was quite honest about it. So, yeah, that's where I'd question the buying tactics there. John,
you see, at 1.7 million, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can't afford to be wrong, can you? It's not
No.
17 grand or even for his money 170 grand. Oh well, we bought a dud. Never mind. It's 1.7 million, which don't care how rich you are, that's still a chunk of change, isn't it?
And I know for a fact if John were advising them or saying what you should do, I think John would steer clear of the breeze ups. Am I right, John?
No, I wouldn't be anywhere near the raise ups, I must admit. I think it'd be quite an exciting and volatile relationship with KO doing a bit of business. Yeah.
Be lucrative, don't it?
Might make for a good TV, actually.
Yeah.
Fly on the wall documentary or something.
Yeah, I'm promoting you. I'm batting for you here. I'm saying, come on, kid, get John in tow here with
Yeah.
us.
1.65 million is John's commission for that one, though, isn't it? That's the thing. It costs you like 50 grand. Yeah.
We come into the Luke Harvey escapade, the Hot Wing Challenge. And that was seen on ITV Racing this week. And Tony Earnshaw's been on. And he said, Luke Harvey, asset to TV coverage or just an ass? Do any other sports treat viewers to a continued clown show? John, what did you make of all that?
Well, this is something that we've gone on about for a while, haven't we? Every other sport treats its viewers as serious fans of the sport. There's not one other sport that's covered on terrestrial television where they have a resident banana head who goes round making a jackass of himself and eating fucking hot wings and trying not to piss himself and upsetting women and whatever, you know.
What about the guy in the deck chair at Ascot? When he
He summed him up, didn't he, when he said he was having a shit day and then Luke Harvey turns up. I mean, how shit can it get?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, ITV seem to think that's something they have to have, you know. I mean, I'm a little bit envious of Luke Harvey because his job now just entails being an arsehole.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have to do any studying about the racing or anything. He's just like the resident pet chimp, isn't he? He gets let out the cage before racing starts, throws a bit of shit around, and then back in the cage on the night.
We should give him a bowler hat and get him to move a piano upstairs. I think that'd be quite good. Yeah, Mr. Shifter.
You want me to play it? Yeah.
It's the taste, yes, quite.
Look at that bloke that nicked his pint, the bloke's face.
That would have made good TV. It's a bloke, give him a crack, wouldn't it?
Yeah, glassed him.
Yeah, and by the way, you're up north here. We're tight up
blood
here.
up there. It's like taking, kidnapping your child.
You're not forced to get away with that up north, are you? You know, so
No.
he didn't look best chuffed, really.
No.
I don't get why they feel the need to do it, but they seem to think it gets viewers in, and it seemed well received.
It does though, right? 41,000 views on social media for the Dante winner. 3.6 million views for Harvey and his chicken wings.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie. Numbers
but
don't lie, do they?
Is that dumbing down of society?
Yeah, well, that said, if there had been a video that day going up of the Taliban cutting somebody's bollocks off, how many views would that have?
And serving it as a chili, as a fucking Philly cheesesteak.
You know?
40 million.
Yeah, and John eats it.
You know, how shocking do you want it to be, sort of thing?
I guess.
I'd imagine if somebody had put a video of Luke Harvey getting his bollocks cut off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Two more serious topics before we come on to some last funnies. The first one, we're going to ask Michael Cannon now what he thinks about the SP system that's currently employed today and what needs to change. Here we go, chaps.
For over 200 years, the on-course SP has been trusted to settle bets off course. And in 2016, Lord Donoghue of the Starting Price Regulatory Commission famously said, "Nobody can fix the SP. Punters who bet at the SP are not being misled or ripped off. Moreover, the traditional SP has the virtues of familiarity, based on its many years as a trusted medium for the majority of punters." Now, of course, during COVID in 2020 and 2021, that was basically stolen, the SP, by the industry, which was fair enough because horse racing continued and they needed an SP from somewhere, and for obvious reasons, on-course bookmakers weren't allowed to bet. However, since life has returned back to normal, this hasn't changed. The industry has kept the SP for themselves, and it cannot be right. The on-course market has been stronger now than it has been for decades. Equally, the exchange liquidity is falling, and the SP mechanism should be transparent. How can it be correct that the industry SP be considered fair? It's a bit like a casino. You start off at 35 to 1, you all place your bets, and then when there's about 10 seconds to go, dealer says no more bets and then redistributes the prices according to the bets laid. It just wouldn't be stood for it. The SP needs to be seen to be collated fairly, the punter protected, and show once again that the real price of a horse is the on-course show at the off. Hence the very phrase, starting price. Yes, people will say that the big firms will send money back to the track on quiet days, and shorten horses for little or no money. But the fact is, they already shorten the horses they want shortened, and it costs them nothing. At least the punter would be in a better place if they knew that the firms had to spend something to get what they wanted. The flip side of that, of course, is that there'll be more money on the tracks, more money going round, making the market even stronger. The SP is not a perfect system, but it cannot be fair to the punters that the industry set its own prices. Putting the on-course bookmaker back in the frame when collating the SP is the only way we can keep the SP fairer, transparent, and more like the phrase that Lord Donoghue said in 2016.
Right. What do we think actually on the SPs currently? How it's run, John? It's obviously wrong, isn't it? Since COVID days.
Like everything else in racing at the minute, Lee, under the guise of gross profits tax, anybody can quite legitimately say this is fucking bent, and the powers that be have no comeback because the actual state of the pitch at the minute, it's a 3-in-1 gradient, and the power L punters are down the bottom of the hill.
It's right that Michael, of course, states regarding the strength of the on-course market at the minute, it's been stronger in a long while, but yet the industry is still resorting to terrible SPs. I think it's time now for reform on that, and I think it's time now that we get the old on-course SP system back in, John.
Well, of course. I mean, there's no excuse for it not to be back in. I mean,
should be independent, shouldn't it?
Again, you see, this carries on because Big Corp are leading the BHA and racing round by the nose through gross profit tax. Nobody can defend that situation. That is the problem. It's the absolute killer with this sport at the moment. The fact that followers of this sport have to be fleeced for this sport to function. It stinks. It stinks to high heaven, and it will continue to do so unless the funding model alters significantly immediately.
Yeah. Thank you for that, John, and thank you, Michael Cannon, for your comments. If you see Michael Cannon at the racecourses, go have a bet with him. He's a good guy, and he has an opinion. He bets to an opinion as well. He's certainly no problem with that. So slightly old school, but an opinionated is where we want to see bookmakers these days, like the old days. Moving on, round table this week, Westminster. I was fortunate to be able to attend this, thanks to Dr. James Noyes for setting up this table of fantastic minds, really. I was absolutely blown away by the list, which has obviously been released now. I was told I wasn't to say anything, but obviously it's out there. Industry figures, BHA, Martin Cruddas, there was a trainer representative, there was PRA representatives, Thomas Saville. He was absolutely top draw in terms of racing knowledge. What was fascinating about this table was that everyone had the same view. BHA, Brant Dunshee spoke extremely well at start proceedings. I can honestly say I left there with so much positivity that it was bursting out of me, because when it came to my speech, I'd got my speech written down, and I had to change it about 2 or 3 times because it had already been said. And that shows you the wealth of knowledge when you're having to do that, and I had to touch on something completely different when it came to my turn at the table. But it's great because we've got punter representation with myself, the HBF were there, and gambling reformers. So everyone had their say, and there was a unanimous sort of decision and verdict at the end of it that racing needs to distance itself from online casino and needs to do it now, and needs to campaign to do it now. We need a figurehead to do this, right? I'm not the figurehead. I'm nobody. We need a good racing figurehead to come out and carry the torch, the baton. You can have my thoughts, my solutions to problems. I'll consult you, whatever you want. It's not a problem. I just want to see racing flourish. That's all I've ever wanted. But it does need a figurehead. It needs racing to get behind it, not be lazy and just go, oh, it's something else. Well, yeah, Matt Zarb and James Noyes, well, they're anti-gamblers. They'll just ditch you. Well, they might do. It doesn't matter, because if we carry on the same path, we're absolute toast. Racing is toast. It cannot survive. It will go down the pan. As you're already seeing, we're selling horses willy-nilly in the bloodstock industry abroad because they can't stand the prize money. And the weakness in the 3-year-old divisions and the 4-year-old divisions is catastrophic. They're all in Australia, they're all in King Kong, they're all in Maidan, they're all in the USA. They're not here, right? It's where the sharks go to lay the pups in the shallows, and that's what Brayton in Britain is now. We see the promising ones, and we see that, ooh, this is a good horse, sold abroad, because you don't get rewarded in prize money. So we need a complete revamp. We need the Gambling Commission to be reformed. If we don't get change within the Gambling Commission, then we can't progress. It's that simple, right? We cannot progress when you've got a lived experience board full of harm campaigners. You need a balanced board. You need people that have lived and breathed the industry. You need people to give. After all, John, Chris, the Gambling Commission remit is fair gambling for all.
Yes.
Where is this fair gambling for all happening right now?
There isn't. I mean, they're clearly not fit for purpose, but I think that the distinction between horse racing and wagering on horse racing and the online casino products, that distinction has to be made, as you say, urgently, because they are chalk and cheese, aren't they? You know, gambling is a real, horse racing as an industry is a real ecosystem. It employs real people doing real jobs, and it's vital for the, you know, for the continuance of many communities in this country. Online casinos exist online, but you know, all they require is a very clever programmer, and that's it. So there's no industry that's around, and yet online casino gambling has somehow attached itself to racing's future, and that's a cancer that needs to be cut out, because it's metastasized to the extent now that, you know, our fate lies in the hands of whether or not people are prepared to accept online casino gambling. And I think we've just got to separate it and let casino gambling do its own thing.
Yep, I have solutions galore to lots of problems. I'm not saying every solution I have is the right solution, but it gets people talking, it gets
Yeah.
people round tables, it gets people debating. That's what racing has to do now. This meeting was very positive. It was a very, very successful meeting. And what we need to do is build on this, and racing needs to get behind it. And
Correct.
if you don't, I promise you, whoever's listening to this, if you don't get behind this, racing in 10 years is gone anyway. It's done. It's
Well,
finished.
can I just say shout out to you, Lee, I mean, and you almost exclusively. You know, you kind of raised this point as a plan months ago. You were subject to, you know, a lot of I hate to say abuse, but it was unpleasant commentary from people that said that you're a lunatic, allying yourself with Matt and James Noyes. But you did what you said you promised you do, which is to bring these divergent voices together in front of actual decision makers. You know, not writing blogs, not sort of sending angry tweets out or doing silly TikToks and debating it within racing's echo chamber. You've taken it outside of the racing bubble into an arena where people who, you know, to be considered by people who can actually make the change. Now, whether that change will occur or not, as you say, nobody knows. But you've done what you said you were going to do. Contrast that with the work of, you know, the established racing media and established trainers and other interest groups who've done nothing for the previous 2 or 3 years other than stamp their feet saying, oh, well, something will turn up. So I think you deserve many of the plaudits and none of the brickbats, because you've done what it said. What have all these other people done? Nothing. And yet they're still sniping. There is no other solution. You know, if this doesn't work, then racing's cooked. But you know, I share your optimism, but I think racing now needs to, you know, put on their big girl and big boy pants and step up. You know, put their heads above the parapet rather than bleating online about, you know, people are being nasty about jockeys and all this crap. Grow a pair and fight for your industry. If you care about it, if you don't care about it, just carry on and it'll just, you know, be managed decline.
Thank you for kind words.
Not at all. Send me money.
Send money, yeah. It is true. We need someone big to come forward and basically carry the torch that'll get the message out there. We've seen what can happen with the power of social media. The Irish fella that was owed money by Labrador, social media gave an outpour of disdain for non-payment. He got paid. And that's the difference. This is where we're at.
But the point is, Lee, you make a good point. You're right. But the point I probably made quite clumsily and not particularly clearly is that expressing frustration online is all well and good, but racing's very good at that. But what you've managed to do is to take that frustration and move it into the real world arena. Say what, whether you're right wing, left wing, or politically agnostic, doesn't matter. But what the left are particularly good at, and people like Matt are superb at, is actually dealing with problems in the real world, having real conversations with actual human beings who are prepared and able to make change, right? So sending tweets and blogs, yes, it's good for raising awareness, but you've kind of made the leap now into the real world, and other people will take that forward. You'll have a role to play. We'll all have a role to play, but ultimately you've given it the best chance of success. But this is the only game in town, and my message, for what it's worth, which is nothing, but my message is to anyone in racing that was doubtful about your credibility or the credibility of this podcast, etc., should now have all their fears allayed, because there were real people out there. Were Treasury officials in attendance. There were representatives of the BHA, industry figures, etc. This is the only game in town, and you need to get behind it now and give it the push it needs.
Indeed. John, anything to add to that?
Just it's absolutely imperative that racing grasps the nettle and admits to itself, as well as to everybody else, that the actual betting is the biggest engagement tool it's got.
It's the second biggest spectator sport in the UK. It's the only industry that relies on betting. Sports doesn't rely on betting. Casino, slots doesn't rely on anything other than bookmaker profits. Racing is the only one that needs it. So I urge everyone that's listening to back anything going forward that we sort of put out there, to back it and get behind it, and let's get some figureheads on board that can actually carry this through. You can have all the plans, you can have all the documentation I have and solutions. Let's sit round tables, let's discuss with people, let's get reformers involved, let's get everyone involved to make a difference. And this is where we're at as a podcast and how we stand. And we hope that this week will have done a lot of good for racing going forwards. And by the way, kudos to the BHA. They spoke extremely well at that meeting. I'm the first person to call the BH out if they've been rubbish or crap. They weren't. They was very good in that meeting. If we can all sing from the same hymn sheet and go forwards, racing does have a chance. If we don't, it will die. That's the fact. Fun time. Food. Food's always fun, isn't it, really? Ice Cold Q's been on. He says, food chat. He's sadly lacking on this show these days. He said, we haven't been doing food very much. I reckon they like your food tips.
They do. I love it.
How did Lee find the grub down in Ponty, London, once that nosebleed had stopped?
yeah, the altitude, yeah.
There's a restaurant in London that's, if you're a meat lover and a proper meat lover and plenty of it and good stuff, I could ever take John down there, I'd take him there. It'd be fallow.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's unbelievable. Honestly, the meat falls off the bone. The lamb, the steaks, it's unbelievable. The Sunday lunches are just tremendous as well. I've not had one, but I know someone that has. And having dined on a normal day there, even if the Sunday lunches aren't as good.
You didn't have the famous cod's head then?
Cod's head? No, I didn't.
What's that?
There was a cod's head with sriracha sauce. It's absolutely world famous. It's really
is it
like a signature dish for the place, yeah.
Even the corn on the cobs, paprika on. They're absolutely beautiful. Honestly, I cannot recommend fallow enough if ever you're down there. Dee's been on. Favourite bakery treat? When I was a lad, the local did a cracking date slide. The modern equivalent is a sorry affair.
Yes.
So, Chris, what would be your go-to bun?
Well, I have to say, I discovered something extraordinary the other day. Where I work, there was someone's leaving do, and I, of course, walked past and stole a load of the food while no one was looking. But one of the things I managed to purloin was a Greg's Bakewell tart muffin. And oh my God, if you like sugar, as I do, and you like your sort of kind of teeth falling out upon impact, this was absolutely sublime. Really, really good. A Bakewell tart muffin from Greg's. It was the absolute polar bear's pajamas, and I heartily recommend it to any sugar addicts out there, which I am one unashamedly. Honestly, it's nuts. You've got to get it. It's £1. I think £1.25 or so. It's not a lot of dough, but it's tremendous.
John, what would be yours?
Probably a peach Melba.
Yes, good choice that.
I love a peach Melba. I make a rather good one myself, actually, because I brew layer the peach before I put it in the pastry case.
Fancy.
And that makes it rather nice with that little crunchy top, you know.
You need to write some of these recipes up for Patreon members, I think. Give them.
Yeah, Patreon only.
Don't give it for free, like cunts. We sitting there with a pen and paper writing it all down. No, just get it on Patreon. A few recipes that our members can recreate at home.
I think we'll still get Look on Sunday talking about despots and cookery shows yet, Chris. What do you think?
I think it's inevitable now. They've seen what works. They're going to copy it. AK will be on there. Your favourite sort of member of the Third Reich. Send your votes in. We'll give them a profile next Monday.
Final two questions. Ronnie Omelette says, "What is the moment you found out you were a good or a bad liar?"
All my life, it's just been one big fucking lie. So yeah, I suppose so. A huge, just this self-deception. So yeah, that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you wouldn't know whether we were telling the truth, would we? If we come up with an example, it could be a good elaborate lie.
I think lie's a broad church, though, isn't it? Because there's a lie where it's like it could be like a really bad lie to someone. Where you've really...
like you murdered 7 hitchhikers when you were on holiday in America a few years ago. Oh yeah, shit! I said that bit out loud, didn't I? Yeah.
It could be like a lie where it's like, why are you not paying your TV license? There is no one at this residence.
Yeah. He gone away. Big silver bird in sky. He fly away. He no here.
He gone. Gone for a year.
He gone.
He not come back.
Gone many year.
I don't know. I look after house. I don't live here.
Yeah, he not here. He dead. He's sleeping. Quite. Yes, and other lies. Yeah. That's that sort of lie. Or you have a lie to protect someone's feelings. So it's not always a bad thing.
Exactly.
Does my arse look big in this? No, it looks great. Yeah.
Doesn't the bride look great? She's like about 24 stone.
Yeah, like a sight screen at Lord's cricket ground being wheeled up the fucking aisle. Yeah, she looks radiant, didn't she? Fat lass in a big white dress. Yeah, fucking sight screen. Yeah.
Oh dear, John.
I found out I was a pretty decent liar in my younger days whenever I used to try and chat a girl up. I changed careers quite often. I was always in a line of work that would be looked favourably upon by the girl in question.
Yeah.
And I did all sorts as a youngster. I was an architect. I was a surgeon.
Yeah.
You name it, I'd done it, really.
So you're a spy, because that's that's uncheckable. Absolutely uncheckable. Because
if you say you're a spy, you're not a spy. You have to be just to be a bit shady about what you do.
Well, you say you're employed by the Ministry of Defence, or you're part, or a diplomat if you're MI6. Yeah, Foreign and Commonwealth Office.
I work for the government, but I can't really talk about.
Yeah,
these aren't bad lies, are they? These are like funny lies. I've said I've been an astronaut and all sorts. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely winged that. Yeah, I'm an astronaut. Where are you based then? Cape Canaveral.
Yeah. Cape Kennedy. Cape Kennedy. Yeah.
Done all that.
It was a true story. Years and years ago, I had a very dear friend of mine who managed to get a woman pregnant who was other than his wife, right? And this individual, the lady in question, who was very bright, and I think she's a King's Counsel now, so she's a very well regarded prosecution barrister. And this chap got this poor girl sort of in the family way, and of course he was panicking because clearly he was married with about 800 children of his own. So he managed to persuade me, this is absolutely true, that I had to meet her in a cafe near Waterloo Station and try and convince her that he was a government operative, and that if he was exposed by her, that national security would be compromised and that her life would be in danger. And I managed to pull this off. And he's still, to this day, she's not sort of approached him with sort of with demands for payment for this thing. I managed to bluff that this man was a spy, and that it was a breach of the official secrets act, and she was in grave danger, and she bought it hook, line, and sinker. So if you're out there, I'm very sorry, but it had to be done. There you go. True story.
Great story. The final question, which is Bert. He says, "Fuck me." He says, "How poor Varian is."
Ooh, yes.
Because how boring is he? Do you know, I feel a bit sorry for him.
Yeah, I do.
Roger's just a quiet fellow, really.
I think he's shy, actually, rather than boring.
I'd like to see him mad, but I don't know how you get him mad.
No, it's very calm. It's very level, I think.
Yeah. He says, I know Chris has this thing about Hoyles.
Yes.
That Varian is a human, what's a Mogadon?
Mogadon, which is, I think it's the brand name for some sort of antidepressant, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Right,
Mogadon.
okay,
Given to psychiatric patients to
Knockout
calm them
drops,
down.
yeah.
Yeah, basically, liquid cosh sort of thing.
Andy Holding could also bore for England. Who's on the bar steward's boring list? Chris.
Bruff Scott, he bores me to tears. I think he's well past his sell-by date. Really is. I think he's dull as dishwater. I didn't care particularly for Jim McGrath as well. I thought he added very, very little to Channel 4 racing car. I find him dull. But I find, you know what? I find most of the TV media really dull, and that's not necessarily a criticism of them as human beings, but I just don't tend to listen to what trainers or jockeys say, because my default position, it's all rubbish, so I don't really think they add much, and I do think they struggle because they have to try to make the sport interesting. I'd be quite happy to pay for a service that just streamed the racing. I don't really care about any of the bits in between. I don't care about post-race interviews. Couldn't give a shit. I think it should just be Xtel with pictures. That'd do me. So, you know, I find the whole... Yeah, and the favourites making ground on the outside. Go on, you fucker. Yeah, get beat 25 lengths. Yeah. But it always gave you hope, Xtel, didn't it? The favourite was always making ground.
Making rapid headway.
Go on, you fucker. Yeah. It's getting up. Oh, no, it's got beat 9. You look at it, beat 9 wickets.
Yeah, the rapid headway always did for me as well. Making rapid headway.
Rapid headway into last place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, cutting across the middle. It's still a distance.
Some of these youngsters would love to have lived our lives. Like everyone in a bookie stood watching us speak. How weird was that? So
it did.
The speaker was in the corner and you'd all stare at speaker.
But didn't they used to sort of put across the commentary? You get last furlong, it said going in at Monmore. Fuck Monmore. Going in at Monmore.
Back to Windsor in the final furlong.
And in 5th place, what's won it? Yeah, going in at Monmore.
Yeah, the anguish on everybody when they said going in at Monmore was fantastic. Wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
John, to finish then, you must have a racing bore, John.
Oh, dear me.
Todd, you're harping on all the time about this, that, and other.
Mark Howard's terrible. I think they're sitting him down because he's in danger of putting himself to sleep, and he'd have a fall if they let him stand up.
Right, on that note, I think it's time to finish. I hope you've enjoyed it this week, like we have. And as it's the end of Mental Health Week, keep your mental health going, guys. And we're back next week as normal, chatting more absolute nonsense. That's all from me, John and Chris. Bye for now.